It's AFC North time. This was the wildest division to me last year because every team finished with a record over 500, and 3 of them made the playoffs. Just mind-boggling.
That is quite mind-boggling. However, I don't foresee that happening again this year. There's not going to be three teams over 500.
Yeah, I agree. I still think they'll all be pretty decent. I think they'll all have solid, better than average records for the most part. But yeah, I think only 2 of them this year will make the playoffs.
Yeah,
so stay tuned.
I've got the Bengals running away with this division.
Yeah. I really figured out. I found out how easy their schedule is truly this year. It is a pretty light schedule, all things considered.
I would agree.
Partially because they didn't win their division. So the Ravens have to take on all those division winners now, whereas the Bengals had that this prior year. So yeah, very excited to get into this year. Before we do have some NFL news.
Yeah, not the most exciting news, but Justin Jefferson signed a 4-year, $140 million contract with the Vikings, which makes him the highest paid player in the NFL that's not a quarterback.
Wow.
And yeah, this is pretty exciting for him. He unveiled this on social media. He posted a TikTok about it, talking about how this is his childhood dream come true, which, I mean, that's all that's great, but it's it's really just the money that's involved.
I think it's goofy because I guarantee he gets traded before this contract is up because he'll then realize his childhood dream is turned into an absolute nightmare when J.J. McCarthy throws 4 interceptions in a game and then Sam Darnold comes in and throws 2 more.
Yeah, he's liable to get very frustrated in the next year.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see a good future here for the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy needs a lot of work, a lot of development, 3 years worth of development.
Yeah.
And Justin Jefferson's he doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's going to be patient and let his career take a little bit of a hit during the interim, wait for him to get a little older, and then maybe flourish with J.J. McCarthy when he's 25 years old. I just don't see that happening right now because we do have to remember J.J. is only 21 years old right now, and their starting quarterback probably is going to be Sam Darnold on his 4th team. That is not a recipe for success in the slightest. Sam Darnold needs to be sitting behind someone to learn from himself, and now he's the guy that someone is sitting behind him. It's crazy to me. Know. It's wild.
Yeah, maybe Minnesota should have taken a little bit of the money that they just used to pay Justin Jefferson and sign a serviceable quarterback.
They should have kept Kirk, drafted J.J. McCarthy later in the draft, if possible, or someone later in the draft. Let them sit behind Kirk Cousins. That's how I would have ran my team.
Yeah.
So, either way, though, we'll let them hash that out. Not my problem. And I don't like the Vikings.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we definitely don't like them since they're in the Bears division.
Yeah, but I like the Lions, though. They're friendly foes.
I guess so. We've got a little NBA playoff update as well before we hop into
Let's rip into it here.
So, round 4, the NBA Finals are upon us. They start this week on Thursday. We've got the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics here. And my prediction is that Boston will win this in 6 games. I think that you are kind of in agreement here.
Totally agree.
That Boston will win.
Obviously, it'd be hard to predict it exactly. I do not foresee Dallas being able to overcome the Celtics here. Just a force of nature. They got past some of their tougher games in there, and then, the Pacers just rolled over for them most of the time.
Exactly.
Blew a lot of their leads and advantages in those games. So, and yeah, the Timberwolves, I think, could have given the Celtics more of a fight than the Mavericks will, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I am going to make a little bit of a bold prediction, though, and say that Dallas will win Game 1, but that Boston will get heated and they'll be floored after the Game 1 loss, and they will come back, win Game 2, 3, and 4, and then Dallas will win their second one in Game 5, and Boston will finish the series in Game 6.
I wonder if you could bet on that, if you could parlay all the games together, if all the lines are out for every game. Probably not.
So the odds are not out for every single game, but you can bet on Boston to win 4 games to 2 or something like that.
But to bet the order in which they win them, that would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
That would be some crazy odds.
I mean, if this happens, that it's because of the sorcery involved.
I know, and then we'll have to get someone to pay you out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or at least we'll come up with some odds for you to put on our little bet tracker.
Yes, for sure.
All right, but let's dive into the AFC North record predictions here, starting with the Cincinnati Bengals, who we both project to be the division winners, and it won't even be close, I guess, according to us. I have the Bengals going 13-4. Now, I really do like the Bengals here. Joe Burrow is probably my favorite player in the league right now after Tom Brady's retired. But I tried not to let that bias affect my picks here. That being said, Cincinnati's going to take the week 1 just cupcake of a game at home against the Patriots. They're going to go on the road then and lose to the Chiefs. Like we talked about before, the law of averages has to kick in. Cincinnati's had a lot of success with the Chiefs over the last few years. Kansas City's won in the playoffs. They did win in the regular season last year, but that was Jake Browning, and the game was still kind of close. I think Kansas City wins this one. It'll be a good game, though. Washington at Cincinnati. Jay Daniels is still going to be very ripe, so I think the Bengals win here. And then they just have an absolute 4-game stretch here that is super winnable. The Panthers, they're in Carolina, but I think they win that one. Then they're home against the Ravens. They got swept by the Ravens last year, so I really don't see them losing this one at home. They go to New York. They beat the Giants there. Then they go to Cleveland. I think they lose to Cleveland. They've always struggled against the Browns, and even though I don't think the Browns will be great this year, I think they get a win here. Then they come back home. They beat the Eagles. I don't foresee the Eagles being world beaters like they were couple years ago. I think they lose here. Then you have Vegas at Cincinnati. I'm going to take Cincinnati in a closer game than you might expect. Cincinnati at Baltimore. Baltimore will get this one. I'm just thinking it would be crazy if Cincinnati swept them. Feels like a split to me.
Yeah.
Cincinnati goes to the Chargers. Second time Joe Burrow has encountered Justin Herbert in the careers of each of them. Justin Herbert got the first one. I think Joe Burrow gets this one. Then they have bye week 12. They come out strong at home against the Steelers, take that one. Then they go on to Dallas. I think they do lose to Dallas here. I think it's a little bit of a tougher game being in Dallas. And as we know, Dallas is super successful when they're playing at home. They've barely lost at all there. I think they've only lost like that playoff game to the Packers over the last couple of years. I mean, their record's very pristine at home.
Yeah.
Then they go to Tennessee. They beat the Titans. They're back at home for the Browns. They do get a win here, a dirty one against the Browns in some colder weather. They beat Denver, so they come to town. Then they go on the road to Pittsburgh. They already have the division locked up. They're not going to risk injuring anyone, so they sit their starters, and Pittsburgh gets a dub here.
You know what? That is a good point, especially on the Pittsburgh game. Knowing that I have them set to go 14-3 here, I might need to change my pick in the final week of the season. It just feels like always in the AFC North, there's a game like that. Every year it seems there's a game like that. Like this past year, the Ravens had the starters, and then the Steelers got the win, which thrust them into the playoffs. Yeah.
The year before that, something similar happened as well, where the Ravens had their starters again. I don't know. Like I feel like. Well, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson was injured the year before, so that would not have happened. But there's always something wonky going on, especially because the Steelers are always hovering right around 500, so they could make the playoffs, and they're always playing right to the end of the season, So that just feels like a Steelers win to me.
No, yeah, I can agree with that, even though when I was making my picks this morning, I didn't have that thought process at the time, but I like the thoughts now.
Yeah, it's hard to forecast so far ahead, but...
All right, so our picks are very similar here, but I'll go ahead and run through mine. Like I said, we've got the Bengals going 14-3, week 1, easy win against New England. However, I do have the Bengals continuing their hot streak against the Chiefs and getting a win here in week 2. I know you probably. I wouldn't think that you would like this pick because of.
I hope it happens. Like I said, I love the Bengals.
I know you like
I'm a
Burrow.
big Joe Burrow fan, so
yeah, but. Your point of regressing to the mean is liable to happen here soon.
Especially being at Arrowhead.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's just going to
be tough. But this would be a fun game to go to. Like,
for sure.
I have so many sporting events I want to go to this fall.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to squeeze them in.
I mean, the tickets for this one would be egregious.
Oh, I know. I mean, I tried to go to that Bengals game last year. I'm glad I didn't, though. I didn't buy the tickets because Joe Burrow ended up getting hurt.
Yeah, that would have sucked.
That was still a good game against the Vikings, though.
Yeah, but the reason you were going wasn't to see Jake Browning.
Well, yeah, it wasn't to see Jake Browning versus Nick Mullins, especially.
Yeah.
It was to see Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow.
Exactly.
But, that was far from happening.
Yeah. All right, week 3, Washington at Cincinnati. Easy win for Cincinnati here. Week 4 against Carolina, another very winnable game for Cincinnati. So I've got them going 4-0 to start off the season here, and then that will give them their first loss in week 5 again at home against Baltimore. Like similar to your thought process, I do think that the Bengals will split the games with Baltimore in this division, but because I have them going 4-0 to start, I feel like the 5th game or the first game against Baltimore is the one they're more likely to lose against a little bit of a tougher team here. But after their first loss of the season, they come back and they've got a couple easy games. They got the Giants they're going to win, then they're going to beat Cleveland, then they're going to beat Philadelphia, and then they're going to beat Vegas. And that brings them to the next game against Baltimore, where they're going to win again, or not again, but win this time, but again in this game of 6 or the 5-game win streak that they've got going here. But then in week 11, they're facing the Chargers, and I think that this will be more of like a fluky loss, like a game
That's
that
fair.
they should actually win, but because they've just had this profusion of like 5 games straight that they won, I think they're going to drop this one in a close game, maybe like a 27-24 to...
Yeah, coming off a big win at the Ravens, it's very liable to happen.
Exactly, yeah. Then they rest up after their loss, get a nice little chat from the coach, and make sure that all's fine and dandy.
Back into shape.
Exactly, yeah. And then they're ready and they're fresh for this Pittsburgh game. Get the win at home, week 13 against Pittsburgh. Week 14, though, like you said, they're going to drop a game here to Dallas. But they're going to come back strong, close out the season with wins against Tennessee, Cleveland, and Denver. And then I honestly would change my pick here to Pittsburgh in the final game of the season, which would make them 13-4 instead of 14-3.
Yeah, so we're pretty square on everything except I have the loss. I don't have the Chargers loss, but you don't have the Chiefs loss.
Yeah, just a couple little games here and there.
All right. I hope that all comes to fruition, because that would make them the clear and obvious division champs, probably the 1 seed if they finish 13-4 in the AFC. Moving on to the Cleveland Browns, not going to have as good of a year as they did this past year, making the playoffs at 11-5. I have them going 7-10, so kind of going back to what they were before Deshaun Watson got there. Dallas at Cleveland, that was a tough opener for them, even being at home for it. I think Dallas comes in and gets the win. I think Dallas is going to be spurred from their horrendous playoff loss this prior year. Then they go to Jacksonville. Man, this is a tough early stretch for them. I think Jacksonville gets the win here as well. Then they're home against the Giants. That's a win. I think then they go on the road to Vegas, and Vegas gets them as well. I think Vegas is going to be sneaky good this year. I think they're like a 9-8 team. And being at home here, a team that they aren't expecting to lose to, I think they actually do lose to them. Then they go on the road to Washington. This is going to be one of the worst teams in the league, so I think they beat them. Cleveland at Philadelphia. Philadelphia gets an easy win here as well. Then they're at home 3 games in a row. Cincinnati comes to town, and they do beat them, as we said. The Bengals always kind of struggle with the Browns, so being in Cleveland, I think that's the one they drop. Baltimore comes to town. I have Cleveland beating them as well. I mean, it's a division rivalry. We saw what happened this past year. Cleveland got one when Baltimore choked it away. Then the Chargers come to town, and they beat them as well. I think that'll still be a little early, a little ripe for the Chargers to fully blossom into what I think they can become. And so they lose to a pretty good defense in Cleveland there. Then you got a little bye. Then they go to New Orleans. New Orleans is going to be a juggernaut this year, as we've talked about, so they're going to lose that game. Then Pittsburgh comes to town. Pittsburgh gets them. Cleveland at Denver. I think Cleveland does win this one. Denver is not going to be great. They feel like a 5-6 win team. Cleveland then goes to Pittsburgh, so then they end up getting swept by the Steelers, so not great for that front. Then Kansas City comes to town and obviously beats them. We can't have Kansas City, being the Bengals and not the Browns. Then Cleveland goes to Cincinnati. They lose that one, splitting the series there. Miami comes up to Cleveland. Ain't no way the fair-weather Dolphins are going to be able to beat Cleveland in Week 17 here. It's going to be frigid, so Cleveland gets them. Then they go to Baltimore, And I think this game is still meaningful because the Ravens would only be 8-8 at the time, and Cleveland would only be 7-9. So they'd only be a game apart here. And if they were to win, it would tie them, but they don't. The Ravens win, getting themselves the 7 or 6 seed in the playoffs. I think that would probably be the 7 seed though, at 9-8, which we'll get to. Don't want to spoil
that'd be sneaky tight.
That would be. That's why I think it would be still relevant. I think that game is still relevant.
Yeah.
For both teams.
Yep. Well, I've got a very similar record prediction here for the Browns. I've got them going 6-11. We did get there a little bit differently, though. I've still got them losing the first 2 weeks to Dallas and Jacksonville and winning week 3 at home against the Giants. Week 4, they're going to lose to Vegas, like you said as well. Week 5 against Washington, again, just going to be one of the worst teams in the league, so they'll get a win against Washington, and then they're going to drop another game to Philly. So kind of a rough start here for them. They're going to start off the season going 2-4, and then they're going to get, I guess they're still going to have a little bit more of a rough start because they're going to lose another one here to Cincinnati, but then they're going to get a sneaky win over Baltimore after all of their early season struggles. They're going to start off 2-5, but they're going to get this win here. Then they're going to go have a home game against the Chargers. They're going to drop that one too, and then they're on the bye, and they are going to need a big talking to because they struggled. It's not a usual season, or it's not going to be like last season for them. This is going to be a rougher Browns. The Browns of old.
The Browns of old.
The Browns of old are going to be emerging this season. After their bye, they face New Orleans, and they're going to lose to New Orleans too, but they're going to pick up 2 wins in the following weeks against Pittsburgh and Denver. Then they're going to drop the next game to Pittsburgh, and then they face Kansas City at home, and there's no way that they're going to be able to beat Kansas City. Then they've got another game here against Cincinnati, and I do have Cincinnati sweeping the Browns in this year's schedule. And their last 2 games of the season, they're going to beat Miami, like you said, because of the cold, and then Baltimore is going to win in the last game of the season, giving them a record of 6-11, a rocky year for the Browns.
Yeah, I like that. We're only a game apart, but I think it's pretty irrelevant. Whether it's 6-11 or 7-10, you're not making the playoffs either way.
Exactly.
Then we got the Baltimore Ravens coming off their number 1 seeded year, one of their best years as of late. I think they take a little step down. They'll still make the playoffs at 9-8, like I said, probably 7 seed, maybe 6 seed if they're lucky. They start the year by going to Kansas City. This is the first game of the entire season. I think Kansas City wins. I just don't foresee Baltimore getting revenge here as much as they probably want to. I just don't see it happening. Although, hey, a narrative can easily be made. Kansas City coming off like a repeat, I should say. They're hungover from the Super Bowl win. They're not going to be as potent as they were last year. But no, I'm going to take the Chiefs here. Mm-hmm. Vegas then comes to town. They do get the win there. Gardner Minshew still learning the system of the Raiders. They're all kind of meshing. So even though I think the Raiders will have a good year, I don't think it begins super early. Baltimore then goes to Dallas. Like we talked about, Dallas is so lethal at home, so they win that. Buffalo comes to town. I do think they get the win here. I'm a little worried about Buffalo, especially early on. Buffalo feels like a 10-6 type of team. To me, I know.
No,
I was worried.
I was gonna say, I agree with you.
You do? I thought you were going to chastise me.
No, I love Buffalo, but I'm honestly worried about them. Who is Josh gonna throw the ball to, bro?
I know. Yeah, Curtis it's Samuel? Going to be who they end up taking. Was it? Oh, it was from FSU, Troy Franklin. No, that was from Oregon. It was Keon Coleman that they ended up taking. I think it was. Yeah. From FSU.
Yeah, so I'm worried about, the receiver talent.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned for them as well.
I'd be
defensively
honestly
as well.
A little impressed if they do make it into the 10-win territory, into the double digits there.
Might be a 9-8.
It's possible, yeah.
Josh is going to have to put that whole team on his back.
He will. I mean, he does it every year, though.
He really does. One of these years, he's got to win MVP.
Yeah.
We'll get to that probably in the next couple weeks here when we circle on back to the AFC. But Baltimore then goes to Cincinnati, drops that game. Washington comes to town. Obviously, they're winning. The whole AFC North is sweeping Washington and the Giants, just to be clear. Baltimore then goes to Tampa Bay. This could be a tighter game, but I do think Baltimore wins. I don't think the Bucs are going to be as great this year as they were last year, and even that wasn't that great. Baltimore goes to Cleveland. Obviously, we had Cleveland winning this one. Denver goes to Baltimore. I think Baltimore easily wins here. And they also get a win then at home against the Bengals, like we discussed. Then they go on the road to Pittsburgh. They drop that one. Just always going to be tough. These on-the-road division rivalry games are always tough. I don't think barely any team I have winning on the road within the division here. Then Baltimore goes to the Chargers. This is where I think the Chargers get a sneaky win, especially last year when the Ravens kind of embarrassed them. The Chargers had a lot of opportunities to win that game,
Right.
and they couldn't. I think they do get the win here at home. Then they go on the bye, recharge, and they go to the Giants. This is a game that they lost a couple years ago. They blew a huge lead to the Giants a few years ago. That doesn't happen again. They get them. Pittsburgh comes to town. They do take down the Steelers here. Then they have a little bit of a rough stretch to end the year going to Houston. A little rematch from the playoffs. I think Houston gets them here. This is one I didn't really hesitate on, although I could see the Ravens getting them. And then finishing the year at home against the Browns. I think they win that one, like I said, to squeak themselves into the playoffs.
Good picks there, dude.
Thank you.
We've got some quite similar ones. It looks like we only have 4 different on the way there, and they're mostly the division games.
Yeah, those are always just a toss-up.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said here, Baltimore at Kansas City. I think Kansas City's going to win in week 1. Defending Super Bowl champs need to hold up their honor, I guess. Then Baltimore is going to beat Las Vegas in week 2, but lose away when Dallas is at home in week 3. But week 4 and week 5, both going to be Baltimore wins here against Buffalo and then Cincinnati. Week 6, this is going to be a crazy one, dude. This is like when I picked the Raiders to upset the Chiefs. Washington's going to come in week 6 and get a wacky win here over Baltimore. Undeserving win. And it's just going to happen. It's like
that's wild.
Plus like 650 money line.
No way.
On the Commanders. It's going to happen. It's going to be like one of their like 2 wins this season.
Against the Ravens on the road?
It's just going to be one of those fluky games, bro. Just a fluky one.
All right. We'll see. I mean, hey, 2 very mobile running quarterbacks against each other. It'll be a fun game.
Yeah, exactly. But then we've got Baltimore going to Tampa Bay, and they're going to win this one. But they're going to lose their next game here against Cleveland when Cleveland is at home. But they'll bounce back, get a dub against Denver because Denver's not going to be all that great this year. And then they're going to drop one at home to Cincinnati. Baltimore at Pittsburgh in week 12 here. I've got Baltimore winning this one. And then they're going to lose right before their week 14 bye. They're going to lose to the Chargers. Now, after their bye, they've got 4 more games. They're going to win 3 of them. They've got the Giants, an easy win. Pittsburgh, a little bit tougher because it's going to be that division rival, but I think they still edge out a win here. Houston, I don't foresee them being that one, so I'm going to take Houston there. And closing out the season, they're going to have a win against Cleveland.
I love it. I like how we get there. So you have them making the playoffs as well, I would assume. At 9-8, we saw with the Bengals this year did not make the playoffs. Colts were 9-8; they did not make the playoffs.
And neither did the Raiders, or were they 8-9?
The Raiders were 8-9, yeah,
okay.
Or maybe they were even 7-10. But yeah, no.
Okay.
Do you think they make the playoffs?
I mean, possibly. I want to it's gonna be hard for me to plan it all out right now in my head. I'm just kind of making the records right now.
I guess we gotta see when we're all done with the records.
Yeah,
then we'll be able to tell.
Yeah, what would the playoff picture look like?
But my guess would probably go Jets, Bills, Bengals, Ravens, Texans, Chiefs, Jaguars. I think that might be it right there. I think the Chargers fall a bit short. I think the Colts fall a bit short. Mm-hmm. I think the Dolphins are going to be a little bad this year, so they fall short.
So you're betting on Jacksonville to have a little bounce back, though?
I do. I think they're too talented. And it's time for Trevor Lawrence to prove himself. Mm-hmm. I still like Trevor. I think he might have an MVP caliber season. I know I said that last year, but I think it's about time that they put some pieces together.
He would have to really improve significantly this year to have an MVP.
He was hurt last year for a lot of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Plus, I'm telling you, they basically give the Jaguars 2 free wins when they send them up to London. I mean, they call one of those games an away game for the Jaguars, but come on, let's be real. They're 2 home games for them.
I know.
The Jaguars have played I think like 50%. They play more than that probably. They play way more games in London than any other team in the NFL.
Yeah.
So all those people in London have become acquainted with the Jaguars,
Right.
and they're supporting that team when they come
That's true.
back to town. So I mean, like,
What team is going to be like the home team, like in Germany or like Brazil?
I think the Eagles will be the home team against the Packers in Brazil. I don't know who's playing in Germany, but that doesn't really matter to
Well,
me.
I
'cause
just
it's
wonder
a
if
one-off.
I wonder if that will like become like the designated team. Like the Eagles will always like play a game in Brazil every year. Like
That would be cool.
yeah,
They don't feel like a very Brazilian type team. Like
Well,
if you're gonna
maybe,
send a
like-
team down to Brazil, I think it should be like the Cardinals or something. Like
The
that would be
Cardinals.
kind of cool.
yeah, because it's kind of a little birdie reminds you of Rio. You know,
Yeah,
the bird
no,
movie.
yes, I remember
Yeah.
that, dude. That was fun.
I guess yeah, they could make a better pick with the Cardinals. However, the
Yeah.
Eagles are a close second, I would think. I mean, there's still a little bird action in there, maybe
They
a little
need to,
bit more
like, do it-
fearsome.
Yeah, with like a team that doesn't have like a humongous supportive fan base, like a
That's
team
true.
that has a little bit of a tenuous relationship with the fans, or maybe they don't
Yeah.
have the best attendance, like the
Right.
Jaguars in Jacksonville, or maybe something like the Titans. I feel like the Titans could pull that off, even though they're getting a brand new stadium, something like that.
Hmm.
Maybe the Raiders, maybe the Rams, maybe the Chargers. I think the Chargers actually would be good for Brazil because they struggle in terms of attendance, as we know.
Yeah.
But anyways, moving on to, speaking of attendance, that issue came up when the Steelers came to LA last year
Mhm.
and beat the Chargers because it was basically a home game for the Steelers with how many fans there were. So
That's
that's what I
crazy.
mean. That's why I think you got to attach them, give them a bone by making them like the Brazil home team in some regards.
Yeah.
Steelers 8-9 this year. So it's the first time Mike Tomlin goes below 500. It's bound to happen eventually. He's gone by off the skin of his teeth over the last couple of years.
What is it,
And
like
so-
17 years straight that he's
Yeah,
been
but a
500
lot of
or
them
more?
recently have been like 500,
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
hasn't fully been. I mean, obviously it was like 10-7, 10-6,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was, but the prior year was like 9-8, or maybe it was 8-8. Then they added the extra game. It was 9-8 or whatever it was.
Mhm.
It's been tight,
Yeah.
and now it just falls short by one game. They go to Atlanta, open up the season, they lose. Atlanta's going to be supercharged here. It feels like whenever a team gets a new quarterback, they always win their first game.
Yeah, Kirk's going to be ready to play.
I mean, you look back to the Jets game, Aaron Rodgers, he technically won his first start as a Jet.
That's
he
true,
technically
yeah.
did.
Beat the Bills.
He did. Pittsburgh then at Denver. I think Pittsburgh wins here. Again, Denver not going to be very good. Chargers come to town. They're going to get them easily. Pittsburgh goes to Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis is also like an 8-9 team, 7-10. So I think Indianapolis wins this one. Then Dallas goes to Pittsburgh. Dallas will win this game. I think Dallas will win the division this year, FYI. Pittsburgh then goes to Vegas. I think Vegas gets this win here. Vegas was embarrassed by the Steelers last year. I think Jimmy G threw like 3 or 4 interceptions to the Steelers, even though that game ended up being pretty close. I think the Vegas Raiders get them here. Then the Jets come to town. The Jets beat them. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a pretty good year. The Giants come to town. Like I said, all AFC North teams will beat the Giants, so Pittsburgh gets the win. Week 9 bye. Then they go to Washington. They'll get this win. Come on, guys. Washington's not being anyone of this caliber. Washington's going to be like the Giants once. They'll probably like win their last game of the year when like Dallas is resting their starters. And then
Yeah.
they'll probably beat like the Bears. They'll probably beat the Bears, let's be honest.
No.
I don't know, man. We'll see. All right. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Like we said, Pittsburgh gets the win here at home. They'll go on to lose on the road. But this is where they get all their division rivalry games toward the end of the season here. They go to Cincinnati and Cleveland. Cleveland first. They get that one, but when they go to Cincinnati, they drop that one. Then turn it right around, play the Browns again at home this time, so they win there. Then the battle for Pennsylvania at Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia gets that one. Then they go to Baltimore. Baltimore gets that. And then Kansas City comes to town, and pretty easy choice for me there. And then Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Like we said, the Bengals rest their starters, and Pittsburgh can easily get the win there.
Good stuff, dude. All right. We've got the same record here, 8-9. We get there quite a bit differently, though. I think we've got 6 different.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I know, yeah, it is a little funky. I do have them losing to Atlanta in week 1, but they're going to win week 2 against Denver. Week 3, though, you mentioned that you think it's going to be an easy win for them over the Chargers. Why do you think it's going to be such an easy win?
I just think that Russell Wilson feels a little wrong, like whatever happened with the Chargers. I think they did beat the Chargers once, but I think Russell Wilson kind of knows these teams from the AFC West a little bit now. It's a new head coach in for the Chargers, so it's not like he really knows Russ all that well.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh, it feels like a game they win. Like, it feels like one of those that they don't struggle with. Like, they get a turnover, like Justin Herbert fumbles or something. I really do think the Chargers are going to have an adjustment period early on where they're not very good. That's why I have them beating Baltimore, but it doesn't come till week 13. So I think it takes a little bit for them to get the ball rolling.
I gotcha. Yeah, I might be putting a little too much stock in them, but I do have them here beating Pittsburgh.
I like them a lot.
3.
I think eventually they're going to be division winners over the Chiefs, but maybe not till next year.
Yeah. All right, week 4 here. We've got Pittsburgh against the Colts. I've got them dropping this one to the Colts. Dallas at Pittsburgh. I've got Pittsburgh getting a win here against Dallas. Pittsburgh is at home. Dallas doesn't play as well when they're traveling, so I think Pittsburgh gets a win here. Pittsburgh against Las Vegas. I'm going to take Pitt. Then we've got the Jets against Pittsburgh, and I think that the Jets are going to be strong still. They're going to get a win here. Then we've got the Giants against Pittsburgh, and I've got Pittsburgh getting a win here at home before their Week 9 bye. Then they're going to head on over to Washington, get an easy win there, but they're going to drop the next game to Baltimore. And then we've got another division matchup here, another tough game here for them in Cleveland. I think that they're going to drop this one. And I guess they actually have 5 straight division games here?
It's hefty. I mean, you gave that stat when we looked at the schedule that they don't play a division game until super late.
Dude, I think I might have missed a game in here somewhere. But
for both of us, or?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I think for Baltimore, because I've got like the Week 14 bye up here. Anyways, we'll address that later. But all right, so I've got Pittsburgh here against Cleveland in what appears to be Week 12, and that Cleveland's going to win this game. Then they're going to drop another one here to Cincinnati, but they're finally going to get a win against Cleveland the second time they play. So they're going to split the games with Cleveland. Then they're facing Philadelphia, and I've actually got them getting a win here. I'm thinking that Philly might be getting tired as the season goes on, as was the case last season. And then Pittsburgh's going to face Baltimore, and they're going to lose this one to Baltimore, so they're going to lose both games to Baltimore. Then Kansas City at Pitt. We've got Kansas City winning this one here as well, closing out the season with a game at home against Cincinnati. Pittsburgh's going to secure a win here.
Excellent. Yeah, we do have quite a few differences, but those division rivalry games are going to be the tough ones. I am just surprised that you have them being the Eagles. It's my thing.
Yeah, just it could possibly happen if they're dropping all these other games to their other little division rivals here. Could be a nice little chance for them to bounce back.
Yeah, I like it. I dig it, as you say. All right, well, I'm very excited to compare our predictions to reality as the season progresses. Like, I'm going to be hawking this. Like, week 1 comes, I want to see how many week 1 that we all get right,
Dude,
you know?
100%.
It's going to be a blast. I'm very excited for this. I wish I'd been doing this my whole life to just see how accurate I can be.
Yeah.
And then I could really start to dial in some of my futures.
Dude,
betting
for sure.
wise, you know what I mean?
For sure. You were already dialed in last week, though, per your best bets.
Yeah. I had a good week in baseball. The Boston-Baltimore Nerfy on. So all these were May 29th. I always just bet for the day after the pod comes out. So the pitchers that day were Cutter Crawford and Corbin Burns, 2 of the better pitchers in the league. So the Nerfy there hit. Houston at Seattle, little Nerfy there as well. The game ended 2-1 in the 10th inning. That was, I believe, Verlander pitching against George Kirby. So another good set of pitchers. Correct. I just verified that. You also had Kansas City at Minnesota. The pitchers in that one were Seth Lugo, the absolute machine, who's 9-1 right now through 10 starts pretty much, which is just mind-blowing, against Bailey Ober. I do like Bailey Ober. I'm going to bet on another Nerfy involving him and actually Seth Lugo for tomorrow. So we're on the same pitching cycle, almost. Then you had the money lines here. Miami against the Padres on the road against the Padres. Easy money, 9-1, bro. Just taking candy from a baby. That plus 158 was tasty. And then the Mets, unfortunately, I guess they took money from me because they lost 10-3, and that one wasn't even really close at all.
Good stuff, dude. All right. I did make a mistake here. In the Ravens schedule, I accidentally skipped the Eagles against the Ravens in Week 13. So going into the bye. So what are we thinking here? You going to roll Baltimore here?
No.
You're rolling Philly?
I'm rolling Philly.
Okay.
I think the Eagles have a better year. Baltimore has a worse year.
Okay.
I think Philly might end up with a similar record, but it'll be a better balanced year. They won't crash and burn like they did this past year. Like I think they might have a little bit of a deeper playoff run.
Mm-hmm.
This past year, even though they had a decent record, like 11-6 or whatever it was a crash and burn type of ending, the way that playoff game went and how they lost like 6 of their final 7 games and all that.
Yeah. I think I'm actually going to take Baltimore here just because I don't know that Philly's going to be able to hold on to their whole season for the whole year this time around.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes our picks slightly different. I think that would put me at 10-8, and you would be
No,
still,
that would drop you down one because I'm still at 9-8. I think that would drop you to 8-9, right?
No, because I picked Baltimore.
Oh, silly old me. Yeah.
So 10-7 rather.
Yes.
And you would, I don't know if you would be at 9-8 or 8-9.
I'm at 9-8.
Okay.
I counted.
All right, good. Sorry about that little mistake here, folks. I was just, I guess I was rushing a little bit.
I was gonna say like everyone else had to play the Eagles except for the Ravens. That's not fair.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even remember the Cincinnati game against the Eagles. In fact, I'm sure it's in here. Yeah, there it is. I don't know why I forgot about that one, but yeah. All right, audited.
Good stuff. All right, my best bets here. We hit our money line bet last week. I predicted that Minnesota would win one game against Dallas, that they would win last week. I think it was on maybe Tuesday or Wednesday that they were going to win that one, but they're going to lose the series, and that did hit. Plus money odds there, so good stuff. However, Anthony Edwards did not score 35-plus points in that game. I thought that, if Minnesota does end up pulling off a victory, Edwards is going to go nuts. He's going to have a big boy game. It was plus 470 odds. We only sprinkled a little half unit on there. So not too big of a deal. That didn't come through for us. But, yeah, so overall a positive week there. And got a few more best bets here for this week. I've got all my best bets just on the NBA Finals. So for Game 1, these are for Game 1 only. I've got over 214 total points, or I guess the over in the game of 214. Dallas money line for Game 1. Kyrie Irving over 23.5 points, and Luka Doncic over 3.5 threes. And then for the non-Game 1 bets here, I've got Jason Tatum taking the MVP of the whole finals. I think that Boston will end up winning it in 6 games, and Tatum will be the all-star there.
Do you know the odds on the MVP? Or has that not come out yet?
Oh, it has. Yeah, it has. It's minus 120.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, not too much value. That sucks.
Not too much value, but
it's kind of like the Super Bowl MVP.
But I hit that. If you remember, we hit that, or I hit that rather with Mahomes.
Right. No, you did. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's just there's not much variance to it. It's kind of predictable.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go absolutely hog wild on June 4th, which is tomorrow, or if you're watching it, it's today, or maybe it was yesterday. Whenever you're watching this, June 4th, just going to go bonkers in terms of bets. There's a lot of stuff I like here. I like the Kansas City, Cleveland, Nerfy. That's a Lugo versus McKenzie, 2 solid pitchers. You got the Dodgers at Pittsburgh. That is Glasnow versus Jesse Jones. Very good pitchers there. Going to be a lot of strikeouts in that one. Minnesota at the Yankees. That's Bailey Ober again versus Gill, who's been an absolute monster. He's gotten like 6 wins in a row. He's been pitching out of his mind. Atlanta at Boston. Again, you got Boston's top of the lineup, Cutter Crawford, like we just talked about. Max Fried, who lit up the Cubs a couple games ago. That's all for the Nerfies. And I got 4 money lines for you as well. So an easy little Houston minus 155. The Arrighetti pitcher for them has really come alive, and they're at home against the Cardinals. Pittsburgh money line at home against the Dodgers. That's going to be the best value play of the day at plus 158. You have Cleveland money line at home. Now, again, this is a good value. Seth Lugo's pitching, who I said is like 9-1 in his 10 starts, but the law of averages is going to have to kick in here, and I do think Cleveland gets this win. Then Colorado at home against the Reds. You're telling me they're in plus money? Yes, please. Plus 115. I'll take that.
Good stuff, dude.
Yes, sir.
Those are that's the most bets that I think you've provided in a single week since the college football
Yeah, it
era.
definitely has, but I'm feeling generous.
Yeah, well, this could be the week that you finally inch your way up into the green in terms of bets hit, because
I know.
right now your record is 107 and 109.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or it could be the week I push myself farther down.
Well, I don't know that that's going to happen. You got to have more confidence in
I've
yourself.
been hot lately.
You've been positive for each of the last 5 weeks, I think.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
That tickles my pickle.
Yeah, dude. You're doing well with it. Any fan mail this week?
No, I checked earlier this morning, unless I got a little sneaky one late. A little sneak attack, perhaps, maybe. I don't think I did, though. It makes it so hard to log into my account. Nope, unfortunately, nothing.
No comments on this video this week. Caleb didn't drop us any hearts this time.
Come on, Caleb. Where you at out there?
Yeah, come on, Caleb. But we love you. We love you back. We didn't necessarily respond to your hearts comment, but we responded verbally.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to respond. You know,
Yeah.
we talked about you. We're talking about you now. So
Yeah.
there you have it, guys. Thank you, as always, for listening. And next week, we will be taking a short sabbatical, but we will be back the following week. See you guys then. Bye now.